Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. Everyone say welcome to Eric Anderson of AwardsWatch. He is the first guest to ever appear on the Oscar expert.
Except for me. I'm always a guest.
Eric, can you introduce yourself so people know what you are and about your website, what you do?
Hi guys, it's Eric, AwardsWatch, and we might have a lot of mutual admirers or followers, I imagine, that we do. So hopefully people that watch you guys know who I am, because I know a lot of people that follow me know who you guys are.
And you have a website, AwardsWatch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I have a website called AwardsWatch. Does, Oscar predictions, TV predictions, film festivals, reviews, all kinds of stuff.
You saw our predictions yesterday. Eric has predictions on his website. We're going to see where we clash. We're going to discuss our anxieties about being wrong and general anxieties about the Oscars and what they may do.
And general anxieties.
Just general. And every time that we disagree on something, I will be taking a drink of this nice, tasty beverage right here.
I have nothing to take a drink from except for, my own confidence. Let's start off with Best Picture. It's definitely one of the closest races. It's one that we predicted.
You're saying it's a close race?
I have doubts every second about my predictions. What are you predicting right now?
I'm gonna stick with 1917 because it's just in itself it's already a totally risky, crazy thing to win Best Picture. It has so many things that would have gone against any film. It's going to break records in history and statistics totally wide open, which I'm actually all totally in favor of.
What are some of those statistics?
Well, we haven't seen anything without, acting and editing nominations since almost the beginning of the Oscars. We haven't seen a Christmas release since Slumdog Millionaire. We haven't seen a movie with no film festival release since I think The Departed. There's just so many awesome things, and I love it because any of us that do this and have for any extended period of time, we've concentrated on statistics and history so much to back up all of what we say. And once those start going away, we don't have those to rely on, and we just have to go with instinct and gut and passion and all that stuff.
And on the other hand, if Parasite wins, lots of statistics are broken there. I think it's that since Crash, a movie hasn't lost all the major precursors and still won Best Picture, and then being a foreign film, obviously.
Parasite winning would be the all-time stat breaker, and that would be the entire 91 years of the Oscars, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Something that we all want to see happen. Do you have someone you're rooting for? You have a horse in the race?
Oh, I'm 100% Parasite. I'm Bong Hive all the way.
I don't know who isn't, really. But apparently many voters aren't.
I don't know. I mean, I don't put too much stock in the voter ballots that start coming out, and there's certainly more this year than I've ever seen before. It used to be just the Hollywood Reporter would do like 3 or 4, and it would be the most scathing, worst people that they could possibly dig up. It's almost like they're fictional. They're so bad.
They found one this year who was completely awful and was just anything that's not from the United States, any actors that are British.
Oh my god!
Shouldn't be considered for that person's ballot.
I want an American director. It's like you should not be in that group.
Is that like a character that they made up? It's funny.
The tough thing is that people are putting a lot of stock in it. They're making, and this happens all the time, when your passion pick is like number 2 and a runner up, and then you get all of these things that kind of bolster your confidence to pick it, but it's not really that real because we're in the era of a preferential ballot. So if somebody's saying I'm voting Parasite, that doesn't mean anything because it doesn't matter unless you're looking at a ranked ballot. If you show me your top 5, everybody that's doing these anonymous ballots, then we can work with something.
I can't say that it doesn't give me pause, the fact that 1917 out of all these ballots didn't get anybody's choice. It makes me think it's a small sample size, but it's still nobody voted for 1917 at number 1.
It's a little
a lot of them
meter.
voted for Parasite. Hollywood is not doing bad on those either. I think there's still a chance for Hollywood to win. And if we're talking about, like, we have two movies that are statistically unlikely to win, Hollywood kind of breaks the least records if it wins.
Yeah. It still has the editing thing, and
yeah,
we can make the excuses for 1917 and Birdman for their style, but right. I don't think you can make that same excuse with Once Upon a Time, and I'm not looking at that to be any type of actual spoiler. I think Jojo Rabbit's a bigger spoiler than Once Upon a Time because it has an editing. That was the thing, like last year. When Green Book got the editing nomination, it's like, or even Spotlight, you're looking at that going, okay, this is a different level here, and this is the thing that can help you win. And when JoJo got that, certainly over Once Upon a Time and over other things, that for me made it a top 3 contender.
And Parasite has that, and Roma didn't have that last year, surprisingly, and it kind of predicted a loss despite being over-nominated for the acting awards. But you also have Parasite, which is maybe winning editing. Do you think that Parasite has a shot to win editing, or do you think it's something else?
I think it has a shot, yes, but I'm sticking with Ford v Ferrari.
What's your reasoning behind that?
It makes a lot of sense as a film editing winner, and it is nominated for Best Picture. If it hadn't been, I might not have predicted it. But I'm also thinking and looking at this year's lineup, and there is a place for all 9 movies to get at least one win. It feels right. It feels like the place to do it. And if Parasite is going to win editing, then it's going to win Best Picture. I don't think it's going to do one and not the other.
Yeah. Right. If Parasite takes editing, I'll be on the edge of my seat, and then if it takes screenplay on top of that, that will almost like sell it for me that it's going to win.
Well, I think it's winning screenplay, so.
Okay. Yeah, because if Parasite wins screenplay, I'm gonna.
That's why I just took a drink, because I know that you guys are not.
I am so close on it. Like, there's actually me in the raw video. I say Parasite's winning, and then I think about it for like 2 minutes, and then I change my mind again. So I'm so wobbly on that category that I don't even know what to do. The same scenario happened with Birdman and Budapest Hotel, and they went with. So I kind of just mirrored that, but. I just had a hard time believing that the Critics' Choice would give it to Hollywood and not Parasite, and that the Oscars would go for Parasite. But I don't know. I think it's really close.
I do think it's really close too, but not close enough.
I might change last minute. That's definitely a category I'm flip-flopping on always.
Production design is a category that I did my predictions for it today, and I feel completely unconfident about it. I think it could go to 3 different things.
Hollywood's won most of the awards, but then 1917's also a giant achievement for what it does. And I kept saying, like, I think it's going to win some production design. It's not just going to be Hollywood all the way there. And then it wins BAFTA, which kind of makes sense because they're the BAFTAs. It's a British film. They loved 1917. The other thing is that for these main categories, it's not just the branches voting for it. It's like people who don't know what production design is, like voting based on what they feel production design is, or maybe it's just voting based on their favorite movie. I don't really know exactly how that works.
I think there's a little bit of both, and I think sometimes when you if you have like a period piece or a royal piece, and they're already shooting in these existing castles and things, and you're going, well, how much of this is already here, and how much of this is created? But to your thoughts about 1917 from your guys' prediction video, that you look at something like Once Upon a Time, which is flashy and bright and neon and signs and really, really graphic. And then 1917 is just like mud and destructed buildings.
Yeah.
And war movies don't win production design. They can win a lot of things, but this isn't something that they win.
Yeah. What's the third that you think? You think Parasite has a shot too?
I think it has a shot, although a contemporary movie winning is so hard. La La Land is the only example in the last decade, and that was already the deemed front runner. And it's Hollywood based, and it was all very insular. And even though like names aren't on ballots, it's just movie titles. If you're in the industry and you work with people all the time, you know who is behind what project. So I think there's a lot of times when that happens. Although I do think it's also a lot of the reason why sometimes we get people with 11, 14, 15 nominations and keep losing. I think if people's names were on ballots, it would change a lot of results.
Yeah, and back to editing with Ford v Ferrari, which I know is a leap. I was also kind of predicting it for editing based on the fact that it's the most like obvious achievement in editing. It's the most like, okay, that movie had the editing brought it together. Parasite has great editing, but it's more like coincides with how well made of a film it is, and it feels like it was very storyboarded, and they kind of went exactly with like what the director's vision was. And I think the editing's excellent, and I think even the second time watching it, it's even better. But that's not as much of an editing movie. When I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, it was like, okay, there's crossfades and like titles, and it cuts every 2 seconds. And that's not Ford v Ferrari. Like, Ford v Ferrari's editing is much more artful.
Yeah.
But it seems on the surface, it screams editing more.
No, I think you're right. And there's a weird thing about editing, and also sometimes with screenplay in a different way, and I'll get to that in a minute. To the average person, more editing means more work and just better.
Yeah.
Which is the only thing that can explain the Bohemian Rhapsody win, which is, especially when you look at the last decade of what has won, and you're like, how in the fuck did that happen? How did that happen? But you'll have a scene that has like 400 cuts in 3 minutes. I don't think that something like Ford v Ferrari suffers from that, and I think something like Parasite suffers from the fact that it is an extremely well edited film, but voters aren't going to look at it in terms of, oh, okay, is the pacing and the buildup and the action that happens in the third act, is this editing, or is this directing in the storytelling? And I mean, it's both, obviously, but I think it's one of the fantastic elements of the editing of Parasite that it is a slow burn until you get to these moments like the cleaning up of the house, which is just like the greatest scene of anything last year, and the party scene at the end, and those are incredible examples of great editing.
And I also think the montage where they're moving into the house and they keep accumulating like job after job, and it's playing to like this like Vivaldi-esque, classical like suite. That scene has like amazing editing.
Yes, montages are really good for this category.
Yeah, so I think that actually helps it a lot, because that's a montage.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But yeah, Parasite, in terms of technicals, is sort of it's sort of like an invisible style, like they say, where you're not supposed to pay attention to that stuff. Obviously, paying attention to it enhances it even more, because that movie is very well made, but it's not like the cinematography is in your face. It's not attempting a lot of long takes, and so it's just harder to recognize for those. But it's good that I was really happy that they actually did go with production design and editing, because those do, for that movie, take more to like, oh, I actually do appreciate those things.
Yes, and I know that Parasite won the ACE Drama Award, and this decade the film editing Oscar has gone more with the ACE Drama winner than anyone else, than BAFTA or anybody else.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody last year, when I saw that one, I immediately predicted it.
Yeah, so it's I get that, and it's absolutely my number 2, like right there.
Yeah,
it's really close.
And if I was predicting Parasite for Best Picture, I would be predicting for editing too.
The one thing about the ACE that I noticed, though, is as editors themselves, I think they're a little more likely to appreciate something that is more moderate about the cuts, like Arrival or The Descendants. They did give it to Parasite, but I feel like that could be because they are able to appreciate it more than just the amount of cuts. Although Bohemian Rhapsody, again, they gave it to that. So who am I to say?
Yeah. Although Ace has been nice to Neon in the last couple of years.
What about sound? Because I feel like that, as far as Ford v Ferrari goes, I feel like that could pair up a little bit.
Sound is also driving me crazy, because a lot of people that I follow or that I talk to are predicting 1917 for both, which makes perfect sense. And I think the sound was the second predictions I did this week, and my beginning was like, is it 1917 or Ford v Ferrari, or is it 1917 or is it just one of these? Because all of them make perfect sense. They shared the MPSE, which was really aggravating. I would have really liked it if one of them had just won. 1917 didn't get a Cinema Audio Society nomination, so a win there would be kind of major. And it is only, we're recording this on a Wednesday and Oscars are Sunday, so I can change my fucking mind if I want to. But right now, I have 1917 for mixing and Ford v Ferrari for editing. Even though it's a war movie, and it should be in editing.
You have the reverse? But here's the thing
I
with the reverse.
The category switched.
I might go with Eric's combination, because at the one that they nominated both, that was editing, where they nominated both and Ford v Ferrari won. So if they're going to split it, like, I guess there's an example of Ford v Ferrari prevailing over 1917 there, but not the other one, which leaves it ambiguous. Although my issue is that if I pick both, and I know that they're going to give one or the other, but I'm wrong, then I get both wrong. So it almost feels safe to me to go 1917.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I know that that's going to win at least one. And if it flops on me, I'm going to be so angry.
I will be too, and I think the chance of 1917 just winning both after Bohemian just won both inexplicably last year makes a lot of sense, and it's also part of the reason why that category is probably going to go back to a single category. I think that will actually happen.
It's becoming murkier and murkier. Like, you think Hacksaw Ridge wins because it has guns in it.
Yes.
And that's editing, but that one mixing.
Yeah.
And then Arrival won editing, whereas you think mixing goes to, like, those movies that are less, like, loud and more artful with, like, how they blend sounds. So it's been very confusing. Ford v Ferrari is not out of the question to win both. I don't think it's out of the question. I think it's more likely that 1917 would take both.
I think it's the least likely scenario.
But what if people just look at Ford v Ferrari, they say, oh, loud cars, like driving, that just is sound.
It is, and it's because everybody's voting that makes that so muddy. Because when I look at the MPSC winners and what each of them won, 1917 won ADR and dialogue, which is kind of weird. And Ford v Ferrari is the one that won actual effects and Foley. And that's, if you were really subscribing to the concept of sound editing, that would be a much closer example of it than what 1917 won. But the average voter is not going to be thinking like we're thinking right now. That's how we trip ourselves up all the time, because we overthink it, because this is all we do all the time. And people that vote are actually, making movies and not really focused on the minutia. I think it makes sense for the average voter, though. And I have seen some positive reaction to that possibility from sound people, which is all that they need to justify doing it.
If they do that, no movie will ever get 14 nominations again.
Yes, if you start reducing the amount
of 14 is going to be one harder.
Yes.
And getting, that'd be the same as getting 15 now, essentially. And it's a lot harder to get 15 than it is to get 14.
Well, then they'll have to add in the best popular movie category so we can make that happen again.
So unnecessary.
No. Would you be opposed to a best ensemble category at the Oscars?
I would.
My thing is that everybody would get nominated and everybody would have an Oscar nomination.
Oh, true, yeah.
That's why they can't do that.
They'd give away too many Oscars.
I would be more in line with possibly like a casting one, but then no, because Joker just won Best Casting at fucking BAFTA for the first time, so that just threw that whole concept in the toilet.
It would piss me off because I wouldn't be able to predict it.
Why would they do that?
Production design, we were talking about, you have Hollywood. It seems like you think Hollywood has a pretty big lead.
I don't think it has a big lead.
I feel like it's a definite lead just because the Critics' Choice only was wrong once, and they gave it to Hollywood. Since they've been doing it.
You guys are going so deep on Critics' Choice
That's what everyone's telling me. That's what everybody's telling me. But the reason that I go deep on Critics' Choice is when I notice that their correlation in a specific category is better than other ones. We were right about Black Panther winning production design and costumes because of Critics' Choice. So sometimes it like does benefit.
Well, for the record, you didn't predict that. I just bet on it. I bet money on it, but then I didn't predict it in my Gold Derby.
I don't remember. I predicted one of them in a Gold Derby.
Yeah, I think you predicted like one. Okay.
I love how excited you get when
you
realize you're gonna make $5. It's awesome.
I know.
It's
I'm
awesome.
afraid to bet money.
You bet more this year, didn't you?
Nope. I bet less so far.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna bet more. I said I was gonna bet like 50 or 100, and I've bet like 20 so far. I'm so afraid to put money on stuff right now.
So, okay, I want to interject something, and it can be a part of everything that we're really talking about. And that is how this shortened season has affected everything that has already happened. Because we're talking about 1917 as a possible winner, and how strange that is, because it was a Christmas Day limited release, which has been an impossible thing to get any type of traction in a normal year. And this time, the voting started like 7-8 days after it came out, still in limited release. And it's winning everything. And it's the opposite thing that I expected to happen. I expected Little Women and Bombshell and 1917 to suffer the most because they would not have the traction or the buzz or the festival release to give them any type of upper hand over films that already had that in place, like Once Upon a Time even. And the absolute opposite happened. For me, who's been doing this for so long, that surprised me so much. And I'm still trying to make heads or tails of it. And I can't wait until Monday the 10th, when everything is done, to be able to look at it in hindsight and then start to go, okay, this is why this happened, and this is why this happened. And that's always the most fun to me, the Monday morning quarterbacking of the Oscars.
It's weird because the October-November strategy works really well in being able to build momentum, but somehow, when 1917 comes out and it completely obliterates the box office and becomes the shiny new thing for everybody, and I guess they kind of forget about the other movies that have had more time to build momentum.
Yeah, it hasn't happened like that before.
Yeah, it just hit like some crazy like perfect combination.
It is.
The thing is, I think it's all gonna depend like how we're gonna look at it is what wins. So if 1917 doesn't win, we're gonna say, oh, it's just like La La Land. It came out late, and then it peaked early, and then it dipped down.
That's the thing, though. Because of the shortened season, 1917 is only going to stay at its peak. It doesn't have any downtime. If we were in a regular year
possibly,
where we had 2 more weeks to go, then I think we would all be questioning if it was Parasite or 1917 with much more...
Right, it's like the last film people are seeing.
Yes.
Before they vote.
Because Parasite is an October release, and it fits the mold. It hit every festival. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it was sweeping critics circles and that sort of thing, which is also like the strategy when you have a earlier release. So
yes.
Where do you think another category might be where we don't agree?
Okay, I'm trying to remember.
Or the controversy. Oh, both the screenplays. There's got to be some discrepancy there.
Yes, just to sidebar just for 1 second, because I know I brought up original screenplay in the film editing conversation, and this is the reason why. Because a lot of times people think screenplays are just the dialogue and not the structure and the story of what's being told, and the average person can and will vote on that because they're thinking, oh my god, I want to say all this really juicy, crazy dialogue, so yes, that's the thing that I'm going to vote for, rather than look at a screenplay for its structure, which is a huge part of it.
To me, that says Hollywood's the dialogue movie, Parasite's like the geniusly structured movie, right?
Correct. Exactly.
You're predicting Parasite anyway.
But I am predicting Parasite anyway. Yeah.
I will say Get Out, I think that's kind of a movie. I mean, yeah, it had like the comedy mixed in, which is clever dialogue, but the structure of that movie was really important, whereas Three Billboards was kind of the dialogue movie. So, yeah, there's an example where it sort of went the other way.
And I think, like, especially that year with Get Out and Call Me By Your Name winning, and they were both Best Picture nominated, but they only had like 4 nominations each. They weren't like, front runners to win anywhere, and that was the best place to give them a win. And that happens all the time. And it happens when you're looking at a year going, okay, where can I put this movie in? I'd like everything to win. And that's a really good way to do it.
I really might end up switching to Parasite. I'm just trying to be so cynical because a lot of the momentum for Parasite is based on like wishes. But even though I understand, like I can feel that there's a way that it can win. I do feel it, but I don't want to go off of because last year Roma losing to Green Book, like, thinking that the favorite would win screenplay, like those kind of things. Like I don't want to.
The favorite lost to Green Book, which had the best dialogue of like any movie. Oh my God! How can you not like be obsessed with the words in favorite and go, yeah, Green Book, that's the one I'm gonna pick.
I think one interesting thing overall about the Oscars this year is that, Parasite's being said that it can win because it has more love in acting and editing and writing, but 1917 has love in different areas, in like the technical areas and the directing. So it's weird that they kind of occupy different spaces.
I'm frustrated that Parasite doesn't have a cinematography nomination. Like, really frustrated, because it should. Again, along with directing and editing, cinematography is a huge part of the storytelling. And every single moment in that movie is shot with deliberation and care, and here's what we want you to see, and here's how much of it we want you to see. But you can only hope and get so much.
Yeah, you have to take the editing and production design and just say, like, this is good enough.
Exactly.
You'd be too spoiled for it to get the cinematography on top of it.
A little bit. Although, if you look at something like Moonlight, when those nominations came out, it absolutely maxed out for a contemporary movie everything that it possibly could have gotten. And again, was one of those clues where it's like, okay, this movie has really broad support, like everywhere. And Parasite has a lot of broad support, but not quite as much. But that's the thing. Nothing has broad support except for something like The Irishman, which is potentially going to go 0 for 10.
I don't think Joker's going to win, but I think on paper it has the most broad support, and it checks off every box unlike any other movie there.
Yes. I mean, I'm predicting Irishman to go 0 for 10. Flat out.
I think its best shot is visual effects,
which is a good category to talk about. I love going back to this hasn't won since 1932 kind of stuff, but nothing matters outside of this era of the preferential ballot. Nothing matters because the voting is totally different. If we didn't have that in the last decade, we wouldn't have Moonlight or Spotlight as Best Picture winners. There's no way. It would be La La Land. It would be Revenant.
I'm ashamed for not knowing, but when was the year that they started implementing that?
2009.
Oh, okay. So it's been since I've been paying attention, really. The young lad that I am.
And it's why the second half of the decade, BAFTA has not lined up at all. That's why it hasn't been since 12 Years a Slave. Because they still have a regular, just straight line voting.
And that gives me pause, too, because it's like, it's been so unpredictable. BAFTA's been wrong.
My prediction has never lined up.
Well, you've predicted BAFTA every time.
Except since 12 Years a Slave. Once again, I've not gotten it right. Like,
why is that?
My pick has always been wrong. So everybody shouldn't be voting for 1917.
If you're going to do that, just stick with PGA. And your chances are so much better.
I went with BAFTAs way too much in the past. And I thought, well, if I went with PGA, I would have been right more often. So I should go with the PGA, even though they're also going for the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's been so unpredictable. PGA is 8 out of 10 of the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's really good.
So that's the most that you can get. No one's going to predict Moonlight. It was never going to happen.
You know what's insane? There's only one movie in the last decade that won everything. Globe, SAG, BAFTA, PGA,
that's a good bit of
Critics'
trivia.
Choice, fucking Argo. Everything.
That's crazy.
And it's the
And
only
Argo's
movie.
not a movie that people remember.
It's the only movie that swept everything the whole decade. Everything else, I have everything like compiled, and you can see I'm looking at this list right now, going, what the fuck? You can't make a whole lot of logic out of it. You can pull it and go, okay, they went with SAG this many times, they went with PGA this many times, but how many times was it this pairing versus this pairing? Yeah. And when you start doing that, like we do, that's crazy making. That's when you need like Adderall or some type of thing to just kind of like keep you in check.
Yeah, that's what I keep trying to do. I keep trying to go, is there a winning magical pairing? It's like Pi, like Darren Aronofsky's Pi.
Yes.
It's like the equivalent of your brain
formula
staying up till 4 a.m.
Exactly.
And like thinking about like stupid things.
Exactly.
Like nothing. That's like you're in too deep.
Yeah, and then Moonlight wins and you're like, well, shit. Like, there's nothing.
Yeah, and then that happened.
Which is why it's fun. I mean...
It is why it's fun.
Visual effects.
Oh, visual effects.
I want to get to that. Because I have money on that. I have $10 right now.
Oh, no.
On Irishman for visual effects, which is not looking so great for me.
Wow, that's...
Because it had great odds.
I'm sorry for your wallet, but okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because do you think 1917 will win, or you have something else?
I actually have something else, which I don't feel comfortable about.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think The Lion King is still winning.
It could.
Okay.
What do you?
But like everybody I know is picking 1917 because, and I think mostly from the BAFTA near sweep, that they're just kind of like, they do this. They go, okay, I'm thinking this. Oh wait, no, now I'm thinking this, and I can't be that reactionary all the time.
You know, we talked about in the video is that the Oscars like don't like giving it to the overbloated movies, and they don't like giving it to bad movies. So to me, it was like 1917 Irishman in a way.
I mean, the Golden Compass won.
The last decade, though.
What year was Golden Compass?
That was like in the 2000s. And Pirates of the Caribbean, one of those won.
Yeah.
But I think the last decade's sort of interesting because, you know, you get more movies with visual effects doing interesting, innovative things with visual effects like Ex Machina.
And people have tired of visual effects in recent years, too. That's why they never give it... They didn't give it to Infinity War last year.
Yeah.
And they didn't even give it to Mad Max and Star Wars.
Yeah.
They gave it to Ex Machina that year.
Well, and I mean, as you guys probably know, Ex Machina blew a 35-year record. It was nominated against, well, 2 actually Best Picture nominees. And that had not happened since 1970. That a movie, if you're nominated in visual effects against a Best Picture nominee, you don't win, period. And no one had for 35 years until Ex Machina. And then it won against 2 of them. And that was insane. It was awesome. And it just blew that apart. And then First Man last year.
And you're predicting that this year.
I am predicting it this year, although 1917 fits into like the First Man idea of supporting visual effects being the thing that propels it to a win, because unless you watch the videos and the bake off reels of what's raw footage and what's visual effects, it's really hard. It's hard to tell. It's hard to know, and most of it looks real.
That was where I was thinking, and I'm not saying I still think this way, but that was where I was thinking Irishman could have had the edge over 1917. Because everybody knows what went into it, whether we like it or not, like whether we like the result or not. And I pretty much ruled out Lion King and Avengers. I think it's a little crazy to go with either of those, not because they don't have amazing visual effects. I mean, Lion King is like groundbreaking, but because there seems to be a pushback against movies that use visual effects to an artless effect. How can The Lion King win when it's become the epitome of artless CGI?
Here's the thing that totally, I think, backs up what you're saying. Because The Lion King is 100% CGI, 100%.
Yeah, it's an animated movie.
It's an animated movie. And the Golden Globes trolled them so hard and so beautifully by nominating that was amazing. I loved that. But yeah, no, that's a totally perfect, valid point, and I hate you. So.
But Lion King did win over Avengers at the VFX Society.
Yeah, I think it's
which
more
is
likely than
important.
Avengers.
Oh yeah, Avengers would be like in last place with Star Wars for me.
Do you think Irishman has a chance? I want to hear an argument pro, but I probably won't get it.
It's weird. No, I think it totally has a chance, and it won a really important VFX
It beat
Society
1917
win.
in supporting visual effects at VFS Society.
It did, but at the same time, when the first photos came out and when the movie came out, the thing that got mocked was the de-aging visual effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like the
bodies.
24-year-old De Niro, which looked like a 44-year-old De Niro.
I know we're talking about how the, anonymous ballot thing is, prone to throwing off, but I think it was like 6 people out of 7 picked 1917 for visual effects. So that kind of made me go like, I don't.
I'm excited for that. Not because I didn't predict it. That's terrible for me. But I'm excited for the idea that people are paying attention to things that are actually there. I love that. I think it would be an awesome win.
I agree, and I think it is a thing that's happening in the last, or more recently, because we're trying to look for like how visual effects is achieved in ways that aren't just like literally animating the entire movie.
Yes, and if it does win, it's really because the voters were paying attention, because the marketing for 1917 has been so myopic about being, hey, it's a one-shot movie, and that puts all the focus only on Roger Deakins' cinematography, which completely eliminated the opportunity to highlight that the editing of the movie is actually one of the most shrewd and clever and difficult parts of the movie. And it should have been nominated, because stitching together all of these sequences, they didn't just happen on their own. It's not one single shot. It is an edited movie. And it's insane to think that it's not. And I really wish that Universal had done a better job of exploiting that. And they just decided to go straight with the cinematography, which is also what's totally fucking over Thomas Newman again.
I would like him to win for it. I thought it was good enough to give him that Oscar.
I love that score so much.
It must be disappointing seeing Joker win score after score after score. I thought they'd at least split it. I thought maybe Golden Globes was a fluke, and it's been everywhere.
Yeah, oh my God, Newman winning at this point would be a humongous shock.
I think he might still, though.
I heard somebody say, and I have to verify this, that every movie that won Best Score at all 3 of those won the Oscar or something. So it would be like unprecedented if Newman won at this point.
Oh, it would
But
be.
I also think
it would be.
I like the score for Joker quite a bit, actually, though.
I love it.
I'm happy with that.
There's no denying that's like a really interesting score, and then 1917's is obviously like more orchestral, so maybe it's like less obvious.
The love for Joker's kind of concentrated there, though. So
It
hard
is.
to bet
It's
against.
with Phoenix, and it's with Hildur Gudendauer, and I'm totally okay with that. She'll be the first female winner in 20 years, and the first since the combining of the categories. And I just can't. I'm not gonna say no to that, especially this
it's
year.
hard to express a preference like one way or the other.
Yeah, especially this year, because I think there's a lot of examples like that. We actually only talked about original screenplay. We should probably talk about adapted screenplay, because there is a thing going on there that is a lot of voter conscience that could be taking place. There's also a place in original song and animated short where things could happen as a result of how the nominations turned out. Adapted screenplay is, I wish it was a little more contentious than it is, because it seems pretty closed now, and it
Pretty JoJo.
It really seems very JoJo.
Yeah.
And this is a TIFF audience winner. There has not been a TIFF audience winner that has not won at least one Oscar, except for the Nadine Labaki movie from whatever the fuck it go. And so there's no way to discount it there, which is also why I have it so high in a lot of categories. But you have that and Greta Gerwig and Little Women kind of doing this sort of thing. If Gerwig doesn't win, or, Christy Wilson Cairns for 1917, there will not be a female screenplay winner for the entire decade of the 2010s, which has not happened since the 1960s.
That's a lot of pressure on them.
It is, but again, this is me overthinking things in a way that voters don't.
Yeah, I don't think they prioritize diversity like that. I think they actually just vote for what movies they like.
I disagree.
Okay.
Because I think that especially screenplay is the place to do that. I'll circle back to Get Out and Call Me by Your Name.
I think Spike Lee's a good example in support of that.
And Spike Lee.
Give him the award because, he hasn't won the Oscar.
Yes. There is an absolutely easy way to give Greta Gerwig an Oscar, which is deserved, at least I think so, but also as a mea culpa because of everything that surrounded the all-male nominees.
In the journalism world, I can definitely see people saying, justice needs to be served. But is that how people are actually voting? Like, is that where their heads are, or is that where our or journalism's head is?
I think there's absolutely examples within the Academy where they can choose non-Best Picture categories to reward a movie. I think Black Panther's wins over The Favorite last year are examples of that, which obviously does not discount those wins because they're fucking awesome wins and deserved wins. But something like The Favorite is such a traditional winner in costume and production design, and the Academy chose in that moment to go totally non-traditional, and it was a first. It's a comic book movie. It was fantastic. So I think
for Get Out to win over Three Billboards too.
Yes. So I think there are absolutely examples of that where voters can go, all right, I'm not going to vote this in Best Picture, but I can definitely do this here.
I think as they expand the demographics of the voter base, which is still, I think, 83%.
Yes.
I don't know, white.
It's still 83% white.
I think as they expand it, we might find that that's more of a thing because people who are underrepresented will be obviously more aware of what they're voting for. And,
yes.
Yeah.
The other great example of that is Precious beating Up in the Air, which had won
any prior major wins,
which had won Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, WGA, BAFTA, everything. Yeah. And then Precious came in and won. It's like, what?
I can also see this being Parasite's reward. They give it screenplay, and it sort of works in its favor because Tarantino is the traditional person that would get up on stage, but having Bong Joon-ho there for a screenplay that wasn't even in the English language is different.
Yes, absolutely. The thing that stands in Greta Gerwig's way, though, is that Taika Waititi is... everybody loves him. Loves him. He is funny. He's personable. He gives great speeches. I met him last month, and I cannot tell you how fucking funny and warm and generous he is as a human. He's the best. I don't know how people are not going to vote for him.
Definitely in his favor.
I think that Little Women certainly has love, but I think there's a good amount of people who are just to me, that was another period drama, and I didn't care for it. Whereas Jojo Rabbit's so widely appealing and charming, there's a lot of incentive to get Greta Gerwig on stage, and then there's people who want to see Bong Joon-ho on stage. So
if Marriage Story had done better, you could have each of them win, and that would have been what a great narrative that would have been. It would have been awesome.
Boo for Marriage Story not winning any screenplay awards. Yeah. How did that happen? I thought that was going to be her.
The backlash against Marriage Story is the worst thing.
It's a weird thing.
Like everybody I've watched it with has loved it, and then
Yeah.
people I've heard who have watched it like at my work or like within my family, they're kind of mixed on it.
I think sometimes, when you're talking about movies, and when the industry watches them and kind of feels like the embrace of them, like La La Land or something, that's one thing. But Marriage Story exposes a much uglier version of that. And there are a lot of people in Hollywood that have gone through ugly divorces, sometimes multiple.
It's opening their wounds.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Even though it's got a happy ending, it's still like, you know what?
Like, what's the point of just showing divorce for what it is?
Yeah.
That was a sad movie.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Maybe that's why The Irishman's like tanking, because all the Oscar members are like, I already think about this too much throughout my day. Like, we don't need...
dying?
Yeah.
Being old?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All of them are former gangsters too, you know?
Well, there's also that.
Killed people.
Yeah, they are mobsters, so.
Do we have any other disagreements?
Acting ones, obviously, no. My write-up for cinematography today was, it's 1917, that's it. That was all I wrote. That was my whole article today, because it's like, why even like talk about that?
You could bet your life savings on 1917.
I would bet my like family on it. Yeah, like all of them. There's one thing that we can talk about, because if Jojo Rabbit is going to win adapted screenplay, and I'm working on the theory that all of the Best Picture nominees are going to win one thing. Yeah. Costume design is the place.
Except for Irishman.
Except for Irishman.
But, like, it's the one that would go with nothing.
Costume design is where I'm putting Little Women. But it's a weird year.
Little Women obviously has the most extravagant costumes, I think. It's the most obvious costume pick. So that's why I have a really hard time seeing anything else winning, but I don't think it's impossible that Jojo Rabbit could win.
Only because they give me like anxiety about it. The anonymous ballots,
right?
the anonymous ballots. Nobody voted for Little Women in costumes. Yeah. One of them said like, Little Women does the costumes as we know that they do. Jojo Rabbit did something different, and it was like,
well, Black Panther also did something different.
Yeah. I think costumes. Jojo Rabbit could upset, and I know that the Costume Guild win was just, it wasn't competing against Little Women, so it's hard to say.
Also, Jojo Rabbit taking two awards feels right. It feels like it might have like
2 award. It doesn't feel like a costume winner though.
Doesn't matter what it is. Screenplay and some other random thing.
No, it doesn't. It's so weird.
And then Little Women will win nothing, and then that's just like, ooh.
Yeah, that's even worse. And then you've got the weird connection of production design and costume design that are so tied together.
Yeah.
And Little Women is not nominated there. So then you have Once Upon a Time and Jojo Rabbit.
Once Upon a Time I don't think will win costumes.
I don't think so either. But when I look at history, it's Alice in Wonderland and Great Gatsby and Grand Budapest and Mad Max.
Right.
There's a lot of movies that cover both. But
Phantom Thread won just costumes without a production design nomination.
Yes.
But then we don't have that obvious movie.
But it's a movie about costumes.
Yeah. And then Jackie was like supposed to, and then it didn't, but then it lost to... Was that nominated for production design? Fantastic Beasts?
Yes. That year, 2016, is the most fucking insane year of the whole decade.
Yeah, I screamed a lot that year. I lost my voice by the end of the night.
The only thing I brought it to was that it was Colleen Atwood, and that's it. There's no other reason for that movie to have won costume design.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
There's this sort of like head-to-head rivalry between Colleen Atwood and Sandy Powell, because Atwood has 14 nominations and 4 wins. And Powell has 15 nominations and 3 wins. And they keep doing this with each other. And I'm like, I could see a weird-ass fucking win for Sandy Powell that doesn't make any sense, just like Fantastic Beasts. Or like Lincoln in production design.
For Irishman?
Totally.
I'd be so disappointed.
Oh my God.
It would be a
That's
gross
the
win.
least costume movie there.
No, everything's brown.
I feel like its nomination was just because of the name in the first place. I feel like
Yes.
Irishman was business suits, and everybody had, maybe a unique tie, but it was barely.
It covers.
Well, it wasn't.
It
as
covers,
much as others.
whatever, 50 years, 80 years, whatever it is. But everything is fucking brown.
Yeah, I thought the Irishman technically was bland. Even the cinematography was bland.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why
Oh,
that got
yeah.
nominated in all these categories.
Yeah, it's just
Production
because it was
design
The
included.
Irishman, and it was like, well, we generally what we do is we nominate Scorsese's movies for 10 Oscars.
Well, I think it's more period movies because they didn't nominate
Yeah,
Wolf of Wall Street.
and Departed, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
If
like this is a period movie.
But like, at least Gangs of New York had really exciting, cool, weird costumes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those were fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And didn't that movie go 10 and 0?
Yes, it did.
So there we go. The Irishman's in good company. With
I
its-
believe if he goes 0 and 10 again, he will be the first director to helm 2 0 and 10 losers.
0 and 10 is a recurring number because if I remember, True Grit and American Hustle also hold this grand 0 and 10.
Yep. And no, the turning point I think was
hard to
11,
round
0 and 11 in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, guys.
Yeah, how long have you been paying attention to awards? Have been really cognizant of of all this awards dynamic stuff.
Since like 19 something or other, a long time. I was like 5 years old, and I would watch the Oscars with my mom and the Globes, and we would make our lists, and we would write out our predictions, and every year since I was 5.
Did you meet your mom when you were 5?
It was pretty easy. I mean, I didn't see a lot of movies. I just, because I was 5 years old. So
Yeah, you have the objective standpoint of
exactly.
not having seen them.
It was only what I thought looked cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, as I got older, obviously, and I could see more things, then it became something else entirely. And then my 20s and 30s were just obsessive about it.
We've only been in it since 2010. Hurt Locker was the first year we started paying attention.
God, that was such a fucking good win. When I was younger, I didn't have a lot of personal investment in it. It wasn't oh my God, my favorite movie lost. And it literally wasn't until Brokeback Mountain and Crash that my spirit was broken with the Oscars. Because at that point,
Yeah, that's a sad one.
at that point, I had this very idyllic version of what they were, and they validated everything, and it was the cream of the crop, and it was all the best of everything, and that was just
Yeah, they've changed a lot.
yeah, it has changed a lot, but that was a moment where I was like, okay, I am crushed beyond belief. and everything I thought that was real is not real. I mean, it was a Santa Claus moment. So, but then it was brought back by Moonlight,
Yeah,
Oh,
and then it was
the redemption,
broken again by Green Book.
and then it was broken again.
That was the thing. That made it so confusing.
I don't think that
Those
was
two
as,
wins within 2 years make everything so confusing because when Moonlight won, you were like, okay, well now the Academy is going to pick Roma because this is who they are now. And then they proved that they're not
People
this
thought
anymore.
the year after Moonlight that Get Out even had a chance. People were
I
saying
did.
that Get Out could win now.
Wow. Oh, did you
Yeah.
predict Get Out?
It was
Yep.
it was like, if Moonlight can win, what else can win?
Give an applause to our first and ever guest
A standing ovation if you want, if you think it's deserving.
for
Yeah.
Eric Anderson of AwardsWatch, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me,
It's
guys.
called a show.
I called it a show. I guess it's a show.
It's a show. Everything is a show.
There's 2 shows happening right now. There's one in your apartment and there's one in ours. Or
That is-
your home and one in ours.
That is actually true.
It was very fun, and it's nice to obsess with someone other than the Oscar expert.
Exactly.
With different DNA.
Yes, with different DNA
Once.
that we know of.
Yeah. You could be a triplet. It's possible.
It's not possible, but it's possible.
Well, I don't remember when I was born, so how can I testify?
That's a really good point.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
Is Eric our triplet?